Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Females Thriving Over 30 podcast. Today, we have another episode that is very, very close to me. We have done a couple of episodes about this before, and it's all about endometriosis. I think, we need to keep talking about it. So we're going to keep doing episodes about it. But before we introduce our guest and then we go through the topic of today, tell me, Jasmine, how have you been this week? Because we haven't talked since last week.
Oh, still summer holidays, still plodding along with all the activities. Been to the seaside the other day.
Nice.
I don't know if I've been yet last week, probably not. We started cooking classes. So last week
Cool.
we learned how to make fresh pasta together. And then this week we're making sushi tomorrow. So I'm learning a
Oh,
lot on these summer activities.
nice. I like that.
Yeah, so I hopefully Mila will now be able to make me some sort of dinner.
Oh,
That's the
nice.
goal.
So I love sushi. So then next time when I go see you
Yes.
and meet Mila for the first
hmm
time, I'll ask her to make me
Yes.
some sushi.
Yes, we'll make some sushi. And then, other than that, I've been clearing out pretty much my whole house. I've probably halved my belongings so far of everything I own in like the past week. It's been crazy.
Oh,
But we've spoken loads of times about like that simple life, haven't we? So that's the aim. That's
yes.
where I'm heading. Every
Oh,
day I'm trying to get rid of a few more things and be more minimal.
I like that.
That's
I like that. That's
yeah.
my plan for next weekend, actually, tackle my mess room and start getting rid of stuff. So
hmm
whenever I'm going in there this weekend and I don't feel like I want to do it and just get overwhelmed about the crap that I have in there, I'll think of you and just, power through it and just
Yeah.
just go.
Cleansing is good for the soul. It'll be worth it when you've done it. But what about you? You've had your ceremony, have you not?
Yes, yes, yes. Yesterday I became a British citizen. So I had my British citizenship ceremony. It was very interesting. There were so many people, and as soon as I finished, I was like, I'm gonna apply for my passport because then suddenly they sent us like the but send us no, they we have like an envelope in there with information. I was like, it's gonna take about 6 weeks for your passport, and you cannot leave the UK now as a British citizen without any. Well, you can leave, but then you're gonna have issues coming in, right? So I was like, okay, fuck, I need to literally go in, apply for my passport today. So I did my application online and all of that. And then when I finished, then it goes, you need to send your British citizenship certificate, the original, by post, and also your current passport. And I was like, what? Like, I, I don't know. I'm just sweating, like I'm so used to things being done in Spain, where when you need to renew your passport, you go to the police, you get an appointment, you go in there on the day with your old passport, you pay your fee, which is usually like 20 euros. So it's not expensive here. And then they give you the passport on the day. There you go. You don't have to send anything via email. So like sending my documentation via mail has me in like, it's hot today, but I'm sweating extra sweats because of that. And now I'm trapped in the UK until I get a passport. I am like, I cannot leave. I cannot do anything. And I just feel like, am I ever going to recover my passport? Am I going to get
I
so,
have to say, the way you renew passports in Spain sounds amazing.
yeah,
Like
that's the way it
I
should be
have to
there.
say, like the government stuff here is archaic. Like anything you have to do, why do you have to fill out these official forms? Where if you go wrong, you've got to go get a new one from the post office
Yeah.
again. Why are we still mailing things? Why is it not an online form? I'm just so
That's That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, why do we need to mail things? Like I get it. There is going to be a high demand for these things, but that's why you have appointments and people go to places. I don't mind having to go all the way to London if I need to,
Mhm.
or Manchester or wherever it is. I'll drive, but I'll have my passport with me in my hand, and then I leave
Yeah.
with my passport in my hand. I just like
Mhm.
sending everything by post. It's like, what if it gets lost? What happens
Mhm.
then? You know? Like it's all about like, making sure that you are not faking your identity. But what if someone gets my passport and decides to just do things with my passport? That just
Mhm.
is very contradictory. I don't know. But yeah, that was like the most exciting part of my week, really.
It's an adventure. It is an adventure in
Mhm.
itself.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking, as I said, about endometriosis. In the first episode that we released about the topic when I was talking to Chloe about my endometriosis, her endometriosis, and all of that. I've mentioned to her, like, Spain for 3 or 4 years now, they have this statutory menstrual leave. People can take the days when they have endometriosis, because obviously it's really horrible when you have this pain and you are, especially like in front of customers, so you need to be in an office, you need to be present and stuff, just to have to deal with all of that. And I was like, I think we need to do something like this in the UK. And at the beginning she said, okay, let's get together, we are gonna get all of this in Teen Mom, because she was in Teen Mom, let's start talking about it. And then the whole thing fizzled out. So I was just like, okay, I need to find someone that wants to do this petition with me, because this is important. And then here comes our guest with a petition that I have been praying for someone to help with. She started this petition for an statutory menstrual leave for women with endometriosis and adenomyosis. And I said, okay, we need to get her on the podcast. We need to talk about, her story with endometriosis, what led her to do this petition, what are we doing with the petition, how can people get involved, and so many other things. So welcome to the podcast, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. So nice to meet you both.
So obviously our guests don't know you, and we always ask our guests to do a little intro about themselves.
So I'm Michelle from Central Scotland, and I have one daughter, and I've been living with endometriosis symptoms since I was 14. I was diagnosed at 23 and went into an instant 10-month chemical menopause. And I am now in my second menopause after having a hysterectomy in April. So I've had a long, wild journey that I didn't speak out too much about while I was going through it. And after the hysterectomy, I found my voice, and here I am.
Yeah. So you had, this year you had the hysterectomy this
Yeah.
April. Oh, and how are you feeling after that?
So the recovery, I think, wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
And obviously it can vary from person to person. But my auntie did say to me, because my cousin had a hysterectomy a few years ago, and she said, she was in bed for 6 weeks. You're kind of up and about. And I said, I think maybe I'm used to being in such a high amount of pain that I learned to deal with it.
Yeah.
And she was like, yes. So I don't think it was as swift or great as I thought it was. I think I was just used to that level of pain, unfortunately. So, but I'm doing good, and I'm back at work and things like that. So yeah, thank you for asking.
So you said it started when you were 14. So
Yeah.
do you, what kind of symptoms did you start with when you were 14, I guess? And then I would love to know when you actually got diagnosed and what that journey looks like for you.
So I could talk all day about it. So the condensed version of that is, when I was 14, I was getting really, really painful periods, and I was getting sent home from school every month, and the school weren't questioning it because I was getting sent to the office by the teachers because it was pure white, and quite a lot of the time I was vomiting, and they would phone my mum to come and get me, and she would take me. So my mum, after a few times of this happening, took me to the GP to say, look, what's going on? And he put me on mefenamic acid, which you might have heard of, but for anyone that hasn't, it's an antispasmodic that they said it'll stop my womb from contracting like this and help the pain. And it did. So the same year I got admitted to hospital, I was airlifted in an air ambulance because I lived on the Scottish Islands at the time. And I was still 14. They thought I had appendicitis because of pain in my right hand quadrant. I was in for days because my infection markers were not showing appendicitis. So they were like, what's wrong with her? They finally did an ultrasound, and they said, oh, she's had a burst cyst on her right ovary, and said to my mum, like, we'll keep her in for another couple of days for pain relief. And then that's it. It's burst. There's nothing we do. And that was it, because I hadn't heard of endometriosis in there. My mum, this was in 1999. So I took mefenamic acid for those 9 years until I was 23. And at that point, I was then that year admitted to the gynae ward through A&E 3 months in a row. And on the third month, they tried not to let me in because they said she was here last month. She can't come here every month. This is what I get told by gynecology. The doctor in A&E fought my corner. I went in, and finally a consultant came in, overruled, and went, no, like, she needs a laparoscopy. The other doctors and nurses kept saying, you're 23. If you have endo, it'll be stage 1. We'll put you on the pill. And that'll be it. So there's no point in doing a laparoscopy. So when they went in and did the laparoscopy, when I woke up, I asked, and they said, you have stage 4 endo with bowel involvement. Your ovaries are both stuck to the back of your womb. You're covered in endometriomas. I was very slim at the time. I was told, don't let your dog jump near your stomach if these burst. And they put me straight into a chemical menopause. So it was like, and I went through those 10 months actually knowing that the outcome could have been a full hysterectomy at 23.
Wow.
Yes. So that was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Psychologically, mentally, physically, and I was 23, so
Yeah.
it was a really hard time, and it was a time that I've not addressed until now, sorry, because I've not been able to, but the kind of finality of the hysterectomies let me reflect on the whole journey and say, whoa, that's not okay. That shouldn't have happened. But my bigger issue is that was years ago. So I was diagnosed 17 years ago. But what I'm seeing on my page and in conversations and with a lot of younger girls, nothing's changed.
Mm-mm.
So if they're being dismissed in the same way, at least we didn't know what endometriosis was back then. But now, that needs to be sorted out and fixed because it's still happening.
And I think this is something that we've mentioned before in the podcast, like women's health is not really dealt the same way that any other,
No.
nothing else. It's just like we always get dismissed. And most of the studies or like even the medicine and everything like that has always been tested with males and because of males. So we are very, very, very behind. And you will think that, yes, things that have been diagnosed so many years ago, discovered so many years ago, how come something has not been done? And, like me personally, I didn't know about my endometriosis until my 30s because I had been on birth control since I was 17. So obviously my endometriosis had always been kind of like, sleeping, let's say. Like I didn't have the pain until I removed my contraception to try to have a baby. And I thought that was something pretty recent, like yes, in the last 20 years or something like that. And watching the movie Joy about IVF, I discovered in 1975, there was already diagnosis of endometriosis. So I'm just so mind blown that in 2025, we are treating it exactly the same way as we were in the 70s. Makes absolutely no sense.
This is the absolute problem. So I was watching, and when I'm getting ready for work, I'm always watching, is it This Morning or Good Morning Britain? And I believe it was when they had Vicky Pattison on, and they were talking about medical misogyny. And I didn't see the full thing, so this might have been addressed, but then I was driving to work thinking about medical misogyny, and it's a really, really strong term. And what I feel is that we're making up for that lost time. Like you say, it's been around for years, and I don't believe that the medics right now are misogynists. I believe that we are making up for all the medical misogyny that's been happening for so many years. That now, because I know many men that are all for it. My gynecologist, my surgeon, he is a man, but the medical misogyny that existed in terms of, medications weren't tested on women. So when we're reading side effect lists, even now, those are side effects that affect men. It was changed at some point, but they all worked around how they affected men. So women were given medication without it knowing, will it make them infertile? Will it make them have anaphylaxis? Something really serious. So it's just catching up with this massive, massive backlog without pointing fingers now, but addressing we need to catch up.
And you said that you were put into the menopause. Can you just talk a little bit about that and how that works? Because I've not heard of that before, or that being done. So I'd be interested. I'm
So
sure people would like to hear about it.
yeah, and I'm very open for sharing it because it is something they do with endometriosis. It's not the first line of treatment. It's used in the more severe cases, but nonetheless quite common. And there's different names. The one I was put on was a monthly injection called Prostat. I think it's a brand name. There's other names and there's similar ones that do the same thing. It was actually originally made for prostate cancer in men, but what they realised was that it could help induce a menopause in a female. So the reason I was put in that menopause was because if they had done surgery at that time, it would have been everything. So they said, we need to give your body a break, try and shrink some of the cysts. And people have said to me since, it doesn't shrink cysts. So I'm not saying it does, I'm not sure, but this is what I was told at the time. And it completely shut down. It's not like the contraceptive injection. It completely shut down my ovaries, therefore my estrogen. And most people that go on it use Tibolone, which is a low dose HRT. But I was not allowed because my mum had had breast cancer when she was 41. And HRT can increase chances with things like that. So I was not allowed any HRT with it. And it was one of the most horrendous experiences of my life. I was still going to work and functioning, but I felt all over the place emotionally, mentally. I was in that unknown area as well, and knowing that it could be a hysterectomy after the 10 months. So the psychological impact was wild, but I didn't feel it at the time. I ran away from it. I went out every weekend with my friends and got drunk when that's not what I used to do. I used to just go out sometimes, and there was out of character behaviours that were typical 23-year-old behaviours, but were out of character for me personally. And then I recently found out 2 or 3 years ago that I have PMDD. It's very probable that that was a massive sort of PMDD flare-up, if you like, and that's why I reacted so badly to it. Because I did speak to doctors about it at the time, and they said, well, not everybody reacts like this, even without the HRT. And I was told you can come off it, but then your chances of losing your womb are going to be much higher. So I stayed on it. I knew I wanted a child at some point, and I was like, staying on it. I also know I'm being really mindful because I know it's a drug that's helped a lot of people as well. It just wasn't for me at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, we see many different treatments that they are doing for endometriosis. As I said, I'm praying that more and more people now decide to specialize on endometriosis and start studying it properly, because there was a recent study that they did on endometriosis, but it was just to say if women with endometriosis were more attractive than women without endometriosis. And I'm like, seriously, if you wasted resources on that, that's just
That
gross.
was in Italy, wasn't it? It was an Italian study. So I was speaking with Jen Moore. She's the person who wrote Endometriosis, the book. She's on Insta as Jen Endometriosis. She's excellent. She's published a book recently. And I was talking to her about that. And it's unreal that they put funding into that. And that even matters. That doesn't matter. The pain matters. The infertility matters. The effect on all parts of our life. Like now it can even have an effect on our mental health because of things like that injection, or even without it. If you're facing infertility or you're in constant pain, because it's not just cyclical pain, we all know that, then that's going to start impacting people's mental health, and it's just not okay.
Exactly. So
to focus on something like how people look and their attractiveness rather than something that should be focused on. I don't understand that at all.
No, not at all. And that's what I wanted to get with that, because you just said, what you had to go through with induced menopause and everything like that. The pain is one part of endometriosis, and then what you just mentioned, the mental aspect of it. Regardless if it's like you feel defeated because of how painful it is, or it's because they have given you a diagnosis that means that you are now going to be infertile, like it happened to me. Like I had to remove my tubes, and now for me, one of the things that I want the most, which is being a mom, is not possible without medical help, basically. Women that have to have a complete hysterectomy and they are not going to be able to carry their child, for example, the mental aspect of that is also something that we need to think about. And I think this petition that you put in place also takes into account the mental aspect, because you can be someone with a lot of pain that is impossible for you to move. Like I've been as well, like in the moment of like, I am in my bathroom the first 2 days of my period, I cannot move.
On the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am lucky that I can work from home. So in a way, sometimes I can, with my laptop do things like it's not pretty.
Yeah.
The bathroom is not pretty, but at least I'm lucky that I can do that. But there is women that can't. They need to go to an office, or they need to be in front of people and work with customers. But then also
Or standing up.
Yeah, but also
Standing up,
the mental
that's the worst.
aspect of it. Like even if you got pain management, right? Like for example, I just got my second surgery and now I'm on continuous birth control. I don't have pain anymore. But the mental aspect of it,
Yes.
it's crazy. So you need to think
Absolutely.
about as well, when that time comes, like your period comes every month, mentally as well, how you feel. So
Yes.
obviously I was going to say, like, what drove you to start the petition this year and not maybe
So,
earlier?
I will say on that. So, firstly, I want to say I agree completely about the mental aspect, because when I was on that medication and had the menopause when I was younger, I was in no pain. It helped the pain. It gave me some relief. But it was like I sold my soul to the devil for it, because it affected me so bad mentally. I think people might be a bit concerned that I'm not thinking about the full picture because it's menstrual leave. And I know the full picture. I've lived the full picture. I watch it with the people that I know. I just think this is a really good place to start. I'm not dismissing that it's a full body disease, that it can affect people all month. Before my hysterectomy, I had a frozen pelvis. I had deep infiltrating endometriosis. Every time I stood up, it was pulling my organs apart. I know it causes pain all month, and I know it has a major impact on mental health, but we need to start somewhere. So I was driving home from work and I heard about Portugal's law on the radio and I burst into tears, literally. I was like, no, that's groundbreaking. I didn't think I'd see that in my lifetime in any country. I know, well, a European country. And then I realised, no, this is already happening in Spain. And I'm like, wow. So I had no idea. And I phoned my mum and I said, do you know, Portugal and Spain are doing this? And she said, no. And I just thought, you know what? We need to do that here. So that was when I sat down, and there was all certain ways you have to submit the petition, and the wording has to be, for it to be published, it has to be perfect. There's so much red tape as well, because the way it's been published is it says endometriosis and adenomyosis, but actually dysmenorrhea is in there. So if you have another condition that causes that, then it's covered. But they didn't publish that in what was published for the petition link. So, and I just had my hysterectomy, so I was off work for 8 weeks, and I just sat and I wrote and I researched how to do this, what do I need to say, what can I not miss out. And then I submitted it all and went, right, okay. And I was doing my thing on Insta anyway with a different campaign called You Would Never Know. And I was getting on really well with that and talking about my journey and representing other journeys. And then on a Tuesday afternoon a few weeks ago, boom, it was published. And I went, my goodness. And I was just like so happy, like so happy. So I shared it to 2 places, and that was my own Instagram and a group chat that I'm in with the curated community. And the girls in that chat put it on TikTok, people put it on Facebook, people sent it to their grannies, like everybody just, and then within 24 hours it had 10,000 signatures, and I just went, wow. And that, but it was completely based on the Portugal thing. It wasn't my idea. I heard that and went, well, and it also, the text of the petition was almost identical to Portugal's. So when people are asking me about why not this and why that and why not this, I'm like, it is really modelled on that.
On what worked, obviously.
And
Yeah.
And I think it's like what you said at the beginning of talking about this, like it is the place to start at the end of the day. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I think the fact that you are doing this and bringing all these eyes to this issue, and I hope we're going to get it to a lot of signatures, and
I hope
it's going to
so.
get looked at, and that's a real starting point of a conversation, you know, and
Yeah.
it's an important conversation that people need to have. And it does fall into so many, like, not even just this, but there's so many things when it's like once you become a mum, like I find it hard, like when Mila's ill, do I get to be off work? Or like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I think being a woman, there's just like so many
It's,
issues that need to
it's
be
so
addressed.
difficult. Yeah. But no, though,
But
there has been, and I do want to really address that, there has been a lot of people that don't feel included by this petition. And I want to say that I totally understand their frustrations. But again, I'm not actually included in it because I've had a hysterectomy.
yeah.
It's a starting point, and I hope that my daughter was learning in modern studies. I do have a 14-year-old daughter. She was learning in modern studies that people don't really sign petitions. And she was telling me this when I was telling her about my petition. And I was like, yeah. So I was like, that's really interesting because I was watching the 10,000 and I said, well, hope this, if there's one specifically about polycystic ovaries or there's one specifically about PMDD, I would be so happy to see that and advocating for that because I have PMDD myself. So I'm not deliberately trying to exclude anyone at all. I hope it snowballs with women's rights and carers leave from work and everything,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, 100%. And that's what I mean. I think what you're doing it for is important on its own. I mean, without any of the other stuff, that is an important thing. Rome wasn't built in a day. You're making an impact
Yes,
in a really important way, which will hopefully then open up other conversations moving forward
absolutely.
and just bring the topics to people's attention, which I think is an amazing thing that you've done, that you've started it.
I just want people to really know that the intent was never to deliberately exclude. But I think if I'd put too much in it or too much more in it, it may not have been published at all.
Yeah.
So progress, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that, when we were exchanging messages, I was like, I really want to help you. It is something I have been wanting to do since it was passed in Spain.
Yeah.
In Spain, it's been like years already, that on.
Yeah.
And I said, like, obviously, one of the things as well that I feel people, that want to sign, but they're mostly probably men that own companies, and they are like, well,
Yes.
if we get this passed, what's going to happen? And if the
Absolutely.
majority of my workforce is female, how am I going to work around shifts and organizing
Absolutely.
people going out and things like that? Because that was one of the main blockers, let's say, to get
Mhm.
everything passed in Spain. There was a lot of opposition.
Yeah. It's absolutely understandable. I've addressed it slightly in a post on my page about how it could benefit employers more in the long run, less absence rates that are unexplained, or if people are able to look after themselves at that time of the month, they'll be feeling better in general, more productive at work. The concern is there and genuine and valid. It's completely valid. So I'm trying my best to get as much awareness out there how it could help.
Yeah.
Actually, in the
Absolutely.
workplace.
I'm a vice president of operations, so I do manage a lot of people. And to me, yes, of course, every time that you have, just holidays in general, right? When people going on holidays is always a time where, things get a little bit more chaotic. But
Yes.
the good thing about this is usually we know more or less around what week we might be on our period, and it's easier to
Yes.
let our employer know, like, okay, I have endometriosis. I'm going to, take advantage of this, but probably I'm not going to need it every month, because for
Yes.
me, there were months that was terrible, and other months that was not that bad. So I just want to let you know that around this week and this week, these next few
Absolutely.
months, I might need to be off. And then it's easier to try to organize the workload or shifts around.
Yeah. Yeah, when people are making rotas, even when it's shift work, they can do it around that. But you're absolutely right in what you're saying about it's not maybe needed every single one for every single person. And but for others it would be. And that's why the medical certificate part of it was brought in. So the doctor's giving an insight to the employer about like, and we all know the pain doesn't go by the stage of endometriosis at all. So it wouldn't be something like that. But, you know, if a person like myself who was admitted to A&E 3 months in a row, then put in gynae for 3 or 4 days, having a letter from a doctor, from my employer to say, this is where she's been, this is what's going on, that's so helpful. And I think a few people have said, why would we need medical certificates every year? And I'm like, because people sadly would exploit it.
Yeah, they will take advantage. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And that's not that's not a great thing at all. Another thing is I've been asked is that what about people that aren't diagnosed with endometriosis but they think they have it. And again, like I understand because I had the 9-year delay. So if somebody's waiting for a diagnosis, they're covered. As long as they had that from their doctor. That's just I think that would just be the nature of it. And that's the way it got passed in Portugal. So if it has a chance of passing, it's going to need to be similar to laws that have already been passed in other countries.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, I haven't heard many issues with people taking this leave in Spain, you know, because if that would have been a thing, we would have heard about it.
Absolutely. No, I think it would be the very small majority. The very small minority that would try to exploit it. But that would be a valid concern for employers as well, I think.
I think the thing is, like, an important just thing to consider is those people who, you know, that small minority that would take advantage of something like this, they're going to do this stuff anyway, regardless of whether this is put in place or not. You know, if people do not want to be productive and do their work, they are going to find a way with or without this.
Yeah.
That is just
and they are probably already doing it, right?
Yeah. They're going to phone in sick anyway. So if they're going to use this excuse, then okay. But if not, they're going to say that they've been up all night being sick or their granny's died for the 17th time. Like these people that do stuff like that are going to do it whether this is in place or not.
Yeah. And then in the same way, people that are suffering with this will be suffering regardless. And whether you are having to phone in sick, and usually phoning in sick, or being able to use this, you are still out of action. So the employers are not, they're not losing anything, because if you're in pain and laid on your bathroom floor and out of action anyway, then you may as well have the comfort of knowing that that time is covered for you to do that, rather than that you're still out of action, but you've got the extra weight of being worried about work.
I think for employers, it's even better because you already tell them around what week you might have to take that leave instead of calling sick that very same day when they had not had time to plan any cover.
100%. 100%. That's the way that I look at it, is that they could have the provisions in place. And as well, like to understand the amount of times that my daughter's dad had to phone my work and say, Michelle's in hospital. Because it continued, even after my diagnosis, it continued. I had regular bursitis and hospitalisations, and my employers were fine. My current employer's fantastic. My employer, when I was younger, they were fine about it, but I think they were a bit like, oh, can you phone yourself? And I'm like, I've been in surgery, or I've been like, you know, hooked up to morphine. I don't know what I would have said. It's like knowing that this is in place. I've always disclosed to employers that I have endometriosis since the day I was diagnosed. But there are women that are scared to do that in case they don't get the job.
Yes.
And that needs to change as well.
Yeah.
Needs to change.
As you said, like it's the scary part of just saying it just in case, you know, they're not going to get the job or the promotion or anything like that. And it's like, why is us, the women, always the ones that have to be scared of stuff not to be able to advance in our career when men don't give a shit about any of this? They just go and do. So we should do the same. Absolutely.
I know it's I think if it affected men, and I know men that agree with me, and there will
literally be a pill that you take and it diagnosed you, and you're like, yeah, you have it. And then
as much as I am a feminist, I'm the true meaning of a feminist. I believe in equality with men. Not that we are better. I'm not a misandrist. I love men, but I do feel as if this would be absolutely sorted out years ago if it was in.
Absolutely. One thing that I wanted to mention, obviously, we're going to put the link to the petition in the description of
Thank you.
the episode to make sure that everybody signs the petition.
Thank you.
But there is also an event that is happening in London on the 6th of September. So tell us all about it, because we want a lot of people going.
So we want as many people there as possible. It's a peaceful demonstration in Westminster Square. Times are to be confirmed, but it's going to be quite a long kind of all-day event. It's going to maybe start late morning and late afternoon. It's been sponsored actually by Your Endo Events, which is run by Laura Potts, and she is doing all the products. She is doing a lot of campaigning at her end to involve people. She's making the banners. I'm helping her, but she is like came in and sponsored it and went, I'm here, I'm going to sort this out for you, because I've never ever organised an event before, whereas she does that for a job. And I already did know Laura. I've never met her in real life, but when she said it, she got in touch and she was like, do you need help? I'm like, wow, I need so much help. I don't know what I'm doing. But I would have done it either way. But no, she's came in and saved the day. So I think there's going to be things like we're making, which I'm actively involved in this as well. We're making resource packs at the moment. So people that come along can get resources about how to cope with diagnosis. Some of it's very holistic and some of it's very factual. It's about rights. We're going to have sort of wristbands and merch and things like that. And we actually have people who are going to be setting up shop. Got somebody coming down to do lymphatic drainage. It's just going to be a really fun day where we all connect and all just have our voices heard, hopefully.
Incredible. I'm going.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Excellent. I'm
Yeah.
so happy to hear that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll be there for sure. So we want to see as many of our listeners as possible going to London on the 6th of September as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know it's not doable for everybody. A lot of even my friends have got their birthdays or they're on holiday, abroad and things like that. And then there's lots of other reasons people can't make it. But anybody that can make it, please come. And anybody that can't make it, just share the petition with as many people as you can. And thank you, basically.
Yes, we'll do live stream.
Oh, yeah, please.
For whoever cannot be there. So they support from their homes.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do that. I'll speak to Laura about that. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
I
Thank
think
you for that.
just to say as well, like you should be so proud of everything that you've done with this. I mean, it
Thank
takes
you.
a lot, and I know you said it's been a lot, and all the attention that's come from it, and all of that. I can only imagine that it is overwhelming. You're clearly a very lovely person, which is going to make you overthink everything.
I
But
do. And thank you.
don't, because you're making such a huge, big, positive impact. So you should just be really proud of yourself. I can't wait to see how it keeps evolving and growing as well.
Thank you so much for that.
I mean, we're close to 60,000 signatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And this was only in, what, a week?
Yeah, it was only released 2 weeks ago today, and we're close to 60,000 signatures.
So we need to try to get it closer to 100K before the 6th of September. So we can celebrate.
Absolutely.
London.
If it's met the signatures by then, we will still be there. We will be there and we'll be celebrating.
I mean, we need, like, if we can get more than 100,000 signatures, it's even better, because then,
Absolutely.
they will
Another
see.
thing that I really, really want to encourage is men, because I feel like this disease, in a completely different way, does affect men who are living with partners with endo. The amount of sleepless nights that my daughter's dad had with me in the hospital, then having to go to his work the next day, the amount of driving my daughter about to one granny or the other while I was in the hospital, like, and watching somebody that he loved going through that as well is big. And then I can't imagine what it's like for people who are watching their children go through it, because that's my biggest fear. I have a
Yes.
14-year-old daughter, and if she develops this, it's going to
Exactly.
hit me hard. Men can watch their daughters go through it as well, their sisters, their grannies, anybody. And we want as many men there as possible. We want to unite.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. So if you don't suffer from endometriosis, but you have a daughter, you want to
Mhm.
sign this because you don't know if, unfortunately, she's going to have endometriosis when
Absolutely.
she is older.
I do think a lot of men that sign it, it'll be directly related to them. And I know there's an endo dad on Insta, he's amazing. You know, I'm lucky enough to know men as well that have signed it that have no connection to it as well. So we don't want to alienate them, but they matter and we want them in. and want their support. We're all one, we're all equal.
Yeah. I think this is important because even though people might think, okay, well, you can just like wait 2 years and have surgery and just get it removed. That doesn't remove endometriosis. Endometriosis keeps growing as long as your ovaries are active. So removing the endometriosis is just like a little step to facilitate a little bit your life so your pain is not that bad. But it
Absolutely.
reproduces and it comes back.
Well, the
So
thing is, I've actually had my ovaries removed and I still have endometriosis because they can't remove every cell in the body and it creates its own supply. So that's why it's completely incurable, even with the ovaries out, which is so, so sad. It's an incurable disease, and that's just another reason why it needs to be taken more seriously.
it can grow everywhere, usually it's always around the ovaries, the uterus, all of that, but it can grow anywhere
Yeah,
in the
no,
body.
there's lots. I know people that have had it in their eye. You know, it can totally infiltrate your body. I don't think that's common. And it is most commonly the reproductive organs, but there's the lung, there's the diaphragm. The lung, I think, used to be seen as a rarer symptom, but it's becoming more common. I don't think it is. I think they're just checking better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unbelievable. It's been found on almost every organ in the body. It's
Yeah.
very, very sad.
You know what, now that you say the lung, I used to do bodybuilding, I was doing sports, and I remember doing certain exercises and just feel like I was breathing like weird. And I'm thinking, like, what if I also have it there? And obviously, I've never checked, But it's true that there is certain exercises that I cannot breathe properly, depending on the move that I'm doing. And I'm like,
So it could also affect the pleura. So you could have it on the lining of the lung without it being in the lung. And that could relate to the exercise, the movement. So it's really worth looking into.
I'm going to have to look at it. Maybe
Yeah.
next year. I don't want any more bad news
Oh,
this year,
no,
please.
it's non-stop, isn't it?
I think it just shows how important this conversation is. I mean, before everything that you've been going through, I didn't know very much about endometriosis. And being close to you and learning so much about it, you realize how serious it is and how much it does affect people in all areas of life. And if you don't know anybody that has it, you might not know that. A lot of people won't know that. So hopefully by just sharing things like this and people listening and hearing about the impact, we can get more signatures and then more people, because as soon as people know the real effects that this has, why wouldn't you want to sign it?
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
And a reminder for everybody that is signing, make sure that you then go to your email and confirm, because otherwise the signature doesn't count. So please confirm that email.
Some people, it's been going to their junk boxes as well. So if you can't find the email, check junk. That's happened to a few people.
Mm-hmm.
That,
And
it will not count if it's not confirmed.
if you're listening to this and you go and sign it, once you've signed it, share it. Share it on your social media platforms. Share it just with your friends in the family group chat, wherever. If you don't go use social media, you don't need to share it on there. But just share it with everyone you know. Share it with colleagues at work. You never know who's going to be affected by this that's around you. You might work in an office with somebody who's affected by this and not know about it. So the more you share the message, you just don't know who you're going to be impacting as well. So
What you just said is
Absolutely.
very important. Like, you might be working next to someone and you might not know, because women, we are so strong. Women with endometriosis, as we said, mask it even more because you don't want to be, affecting your job and your possibilities of, having a career in that company or whatever you're doing. So yeah, we might be
It's
smiling.
so true.
Okay, well, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your like you're just this very busy woman now. You've got all this campaigning going on that you've got to deal with.
So overwhelming.
The fact that you've taken the time out to speak to us is amazing. So thank you so
It's
much for coming on the
great.
podcast.
Thank you so much. And don't get me wrong, when I say it's overwhelming, I just mean I didn't expect this. It's overwhelming in the best way. And I'm so grateful for every signature, every share. And I know that everybody else is too, because it's not for me. We can all be grateful for each other for signing it for me. It doesn't, it's a cause, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's 100% right. I mean, you've started it, but you're representing so many women, so many women.
I'm just grateful to be a part of it, really. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're grateful
Thank
to be
you so
part of it
much.
too.
Thank you. It's been really, really nice to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been our pleasure. So if you're listening to this, make sure that you go and you sign straight away. Don't forget about it. We've put it in the notes from on this show, so you can go on and on the episode notes, you can go on and sign that, and then make sure you share it with everybody. You can still vote for us in the British Podcast Awards as well, so we'll also leave that link in there.
I don't have that link. I'll be doing that.
Okay,
And getting
we'll send
everybody
that
else
to
I
you.
know to do that.
So we'll share that as well. Make sure that you leave us a review, and we will speak to you in the next episode of the podcast. Bye.
Bye.